Coming up on this week's Course of Life podcast, we're recapping the Open Championship, as inevitable as it was, and crazy stories from the world of sports and beyond. Plus, I'm headed to Big Cedar Lodge this week for a bucket list golf experience, and our alma mater wins big, a crazy affair that I've got some tea and some gossip to spill on regarding, the Coldplay couple. That's right, we've got some behind-the-scenes information on that. Plus, a random legendary wrestler joins the show. And this week's featured guest is architect Tripp Davis, back on the podcast for the first time in a couple of years with some really cool course design updates of what he's working on, all coming up on a loaded Course of Life podcast that starts now.
Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Course of Life. I'm Michael, he's Alex, and Alex, let's head to Northern Ireland at Royal Portrush for the Open Championship. And unfortunately, on Sunday, it was such a snooze-fest that I took a nap during the front nine.
Oh my goodness, Michael.
Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah. You went nappy poo on the front nine? I guess I don't blame you. It was a turn out the light Sunday, quite literally, from the first hole in which he cemented his lead with that birdie. And yes, that was a nap negotiable Sunday, especially with the early time for the American audience. You may have gotten up a little bit early and watched a little bit, and hey, you could have possibly dozed off. I could see it happening with that type of tournament. That's
right. So Scottie Scheffler, now a four-time major champion, is now only missing one major to fulfill the Grand Slam.
Yep. Check two more off. US Open to go.
4 majors in 3 years. He's the number one, hands down the number one player of the world, has really not looked weak at any point since winning his first Masters 3 years ago, has only missed one cut in a major championship.
Yep.
We say it every week that he wins. He's the next Tiger. We've talked about him being the next Tiger Woods, that he's in that league, or we keep saying he might be in that league.
In this moment, he is occupying that space.
He is in that space. He is the Tiger Woods of our era, of this era, not our era. Our era is Tiger Woods, I guess, but of this era, he is the Tiger Woods. So, how many more years until he completes the Grand Slam?
That's probably the next question, is checking off the U.S. Open, and then it's with that major tally. That's where we start to get going, because we've got Rory at 5, Brooks Koepka at 5. We got a slew of guys between 6 and 9. When you start to get into the Arnold Palmers and Gary Players of the world, Lee Trevino's, you're going to have to pass them. Nick Faldo's up there. So can he get to that next echelon of greatness? Lots of guys have kind of hit a bit of a wall. I just mentioned a couple there that got to 4 or 5 and had trouble winning more later in their career. So it'll be interesting to watch. But yeah, the dominance is very much Tiger-like. This is what it looked like in the early 2000s when Tiger Woods was dominating tournaments. It is not quite as exciting, and Scottie Scheffler doesn't quite do it with the flair and the entertainment value that Tiger Woods may have. But results-wise, this is exactly what the dominance looked like.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he may not do it with the flair of Tiger Woods, but he's doing it with a candidness that we never saw out of Tiger Woods until just the last couple of years.
Yeah, talk about this all-time press conference at the beginning of the week here.
It's just, what he talked about on his press conference on Tuesday, pretty much saying the insightfulness to say, I don't know why I want to win. You win and it's great for 5 minutes, and then you don't care anymore and it's on to the next thing and you're just trying to win again. But him saying, but I want to win, but it doesn't fulfill me in a long-term sense. Yeah. I brought this up to my wife, who played golf in high school, and now she's a filmmaker, and she said she can relate on the sense of making a film and trying to get into a film festival. You do all this work and you work real hard, you get into a film festival, and you're super excited as soon as you find out you got into that festival. But then you go to the festival, which is when you're really celebrating being there, and it's like, whatever, I'm here. I don't care anymore. It's time for the next thing.
It's that whole clause of life of stopping and smelling the roses and enjoying the moments when you're in them and learning to enjoy them as much as you can for as long as you possibly can. You and I find the same thing when I do, pieces of content. One's going to be amazing. And in the moment I try and stop and smell the roses for as long as possible. But the next one's around the corner. And it's that mentality of asking Tom Brady, which ring's your favorite? His answer was the next. It's that same kind of mentality where it's just like, I'm so focused on the next. Sometimes I don't even take a moment to enjoy in the present, which was an interesting way to start the week with those remarks and very candid. And he did end up having a very extra long celebration to feel like make up for those remarks at the beginning of the week.
Yeah. Yes, that indeed. And I thought it was interesting. Of course, he talked about how much playing golf is special to him, that he can provide for his wife and his son, who fell trying to get up to the green when he got the claret jug, which is real cute. If we all saw that. But also I saw early in the week how I saw it dubbed as Scottie's sermon at Portrush.
Yeah.
And how the person that needed to listen to it the most was Rory McIlroy.
Oh, wow. We're just firing the shots till Bethpage here for the next couple of months. I love this. Barb's back and forth.
I mean, Rory did fine. He didn't have a great Sunday. He wasn't, I don't think anyone was going to be able to catch Scottie.
This is what that looks like with Tiger Woods. It's like, yes, there's Phil Mickelsons and there's Ernie Els and there's Vijay Singhs and there's great players that win a ton of times and have very collected careers. But generally speaking, when they go up against the bull, they just get the horns and they lose 9 out of 10 times. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Yep, that is indeed.
Let's go to some random tidbits from the week, because there were some other random storylines as well, too.
Yeah, let's start with Ryan Peake.
Yes. How about this one, Michael? Ryan Peake played golf at a young age, kind of got derailed. Long story short, joined a biker gang, got in trouble with the law, ended up doing 7 years for some, I don't know the details, so we won't get into that, but 7 years in jail, reformed himself during his sentence, began to start getting opportunities to practice during his sentence on an open lawn area in the jail facility. He then got the permission to actually enter tournaments as his sentence was ending. And then about a year or two after getting out, wins the New Zealand Open, which got him into the Open Championship. The craziest turnaround story of them all, maybe rivaling or even topping the current Angel Cabrera narrative. So shout out to Ryan Peake for the full turnaround and qualifying for the Open.
And he got to play with Phil Mickelson on Thursday, of all things. And then even asked Mickelson's caddy for a ball and glove signed by Phil, which is just hilarious. I mean,
listen, the guy needs money wherever he can get it, so he probably sold it on the black market, right?
Oh, you think he's going to sell it? He's not going to keep it as a memento? Wow. That was crazy. I think what was maybe even crazier, though, was at the top of the leaderboard on Thursday, which was just such an open leaderboard, no one we had ever heard of, including Saddam Kaukhanjana.
Wow.
I'm sure I butchered that
Sounded
badly.
Pretty good. I don't know.
27-year-old pro from Thailand who's a Buddhist monk.
Correct. He took time away from the game to go and study to be a monk. And there's an entire story written up about it and his journey. And he was one of those names where you roll the crust off your eyes Thursday morning. You flip the golf on. It's the first thing you see on your TV, and you check the board and you see a completely random name. You're like, I gotta Google this guy. What's going on here? Why is this guy on the top of the board? And lo and behold, he was a freaking Buddhist monk. Another random story from the Open.
Just crazy. Indeed, what happened there. So, and while we had, the calmness of a Buddhist monk on the board, we had the NBC booth being attacked by bats.
Yep, that's right. Bat almost killed Kevin Kisner and Dan Hicks, I'm hearing. They did live to tell the story. No bites, fortunately. Kisner was absolutely petrified of a bite in a rabies situation. That's no fun, and especially when you're not anywhere near home and you get a situation like that. So shout out to them for avoiding the bat this week.
So Scottie, 4-time major winner now after hoisting the claret jug at Portrush. Odds on him winning the FedEx Cup this year?
Oh, geez, that's God. I mean, we already know he's going to be number one going into it. So
it's
just no stroke lead, though.
What we want is Scottie and Rory paired up for the finale.
I was trying to get some sort of 1-2 finish, this past Sunday at the Open for that, but couldn't.
You got Harris English in number 2, not an Englishman.
It's your guy, yeah.
It's just there you go. So
shout out to Scottie, 4 majors, nice job.
Yeah. Let's talk about some other interesting golf news that was going on at the Barracuda Championship. First of all, you got to remember when you saw those alerts that the leaders are not at plus 30. We're using a modified Stableford scoring. So
you get points for good things and you get points against you for bad things. That's how you do the Stableford scoring in golf. And they mix it up like that a couple times a year on tour. And this is one of them. There was one guy that was supposed to probably be in the field that wasn't, though. It caused a little bit of a generational controversy here. YouTuber Grant Horvat, one of the more popular YouTube golfers out there, turned down an invite to the Barracuda because the PGA Tour wouldn't allow him to film, for the purposes of creating YouTube content for his channel. It was a very divided issue, obviously. Michael, where do you stand on Grant Horvat turning down the invite for those reasons?
Well, look, I think we need to be consistent across the board, and the media rights to these tournaments belong to the networks and not to the athletes who are then filming for their own purposes.
Yeah, I know it's tough because the PGA
Tour. That's the way the tours work. That's how all these things work.
Mm-hmm. So, as archaic as you may find that is the policy in place, and so that it kind of prevents them from allowing something like that. But obviously, the younger crowd sees it as completely ridiculous. Why would you not let a YouTuber film for YouTube? That's the whole reason you're inviting him to the tournament, is through the YouTube video content he creates. So definitely a generational argument at play there, but we'll see if Grant Horvat does eventually get his chance at a PGA Tour event. I feel like he will end up playing in one and just do some handshake in the middle agreement where he doesn't have a full crew, but just one guy, something like that. But that'll be coming soon.
The other big news that came out this week was the best worst golfer on tour, Joel Dahmen.
Yes. Probably one of the OG player-caddy relationships the world has fallen in love with recently.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you, Alex, there's no more love between Joel Dahmen and Gino Bonelli. They still love each other, but they're no longer player-caddy combo. They're done. So
about a decade-long partnership.
Over 10 years, dating back to when Joel was in the Korn Ferry Tour. Gino's been on the bag since then, all the way through his PGA Tour years here, all of his starts, and of course we know that relationship so much from the Netflix series, from Full Swing, and how Gino was really pushing Joel to take better care of himself and to be the better athlete than he really was on tour. And it looks like maybe, I'm curious whether that's what kind of came to a head here, where Gino was just like, you can't keep doing this to yourself. You can't keep doing this to yourself. And that's what led to this split.
Yeah, all these relationships do seem to come to an end in the world of golf. No matter how good the player-caddy partnership is, I feel like there's a little bit of a ticking time bomb once you get to like that kind of we're together for a decade point, where you just kind of start to look at each other and say, like, we're really going to be together forever, ever, or are we going to kind of go our separate ways and try something else? So this was that moment for the two of them. Joel Dahmen ended up playing the weekend, so hopefully it leads to some good things for both him and Gino down the road.
Yep. The PGA Tour heads back stateside next week for the 3M Open in Minnesota, TPC Twin Cities. The second to last tune-up before the FedEx Cup, last chance to get in. The Wyndham Championship will follow in Greensboro.
Yep.
And so this is time that we'll start getting all those bubble talks, and we'll see metrics going on screen to find out who gets in and all that fun stuff. So, it's just a good time to start paying attention to all those other guys that you don't usually pay attention to on tour.
Pretty much, yeah. We're going to be watching for Dylan Wu right now to rack up maybe a good week and put together a couple weeks right here to get himself in that FedEx Cup playoff race as well too. So yeah, we'll be watching the bubble. I know Steve Sands from the Golf Channel will be tracking everything live, so we'll be hearing a lot of his voice with the updated rankings here in the next couple weeks.
All right, that's what's been going on in the world of golf.
Yep.
Alex, you're back in Texas after your Vegas weekend last weekend. And you were recording last week from your hotel room.
Correct. Great stay at the Plaza.
How did the rest of the week go? Did you gamble any money? Are you leaving me because you hit it big and you're now just going to become a Vegas gambler?
I wish. That's always the dream, right? Is you just go there, with a $20 bill and you just hit a jackpot and you walk away with thousands. That did not happen to me, but I did have some success. Won a couple $100 at the roulette table, then slowly gave it away hour after hour after hour after hour. But in the end, pretty much broke even. And in Vegas, when you break even and that's
winning.
When you leave with most of the money you took out of the ATM, that's a win in Las Vegas.
I don't think it's just Vegas. It's any casino. If you walk away even from any casino, you have won the day.
You gambled and you kept what was yours.
The question is, of course, is that I'm going to have an opportunity to gamble in about a month. And we'll see if I do gamble and how much I gamble and if I walk away even or down.
Is this literally on the cruise?
This is on the cruise. Have we even talked about the cruise on the podcast yet? I don't even know.
We know you're doing it, but we haven't heard details. So first great detail is that there's a casino on the cruise. That immediately excites me.
There's a casino on every cruise ship pretty much these days. So we'll see how much gambling on a cruise ship I do when I'm on a cruise in Alaska next month. We'll talk about it more over the next few weeks.
At minimum, just $10 in a slot machine for a video.
No. I don't play. Okay, unlike you, I do not touch the one-arm bandits. Wow. I do not play slots.
You're just strictly table game guy.
I am a blackjack guy. I will, if I'm really into it, I'm going to practice starting a week or so before.
Yep.
There we go. You start learning how you need to reteach yourself how to play, not to win the hand, but to win over the long term, to make the right statistical choices.
You're a by the book guy when you play.
I am. Yeah, I am. So
that falls in line with your personality. So that makes sense.
See. Yeah. So we'll see.
Love that. Cool. Yeah. So broke even gambling. And then this past weekend as well, annual Greater Austin Comic-Con here as well, too. Always a fun random day. I posted a very interesting video on Instagram, which you can see at Course of Life Alex and CLL Podcast, where I tried to find a golf item at Comic-Con.
Yeah. We won't spoil whether or not you did or not, but what you did find was some Seinfeld art and the Kramer. So did you buy any Seinfeld art?
I did not buy any Seinfeld art. I just showed it off in the video there and saw that. But there's some other stuff from sitcoms you may know and love in that post as well, too. So check that out on Instagram. But there were a couple celebrities there, and I did get to throw a question to someone who's connected to the movie Iron Claw, Michael. You might remember that release a couple of years ago with Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White depicting the Von Erich wrestling brothers and wrestling family. Kevin Von Erich was there at Comic-Con. And I got to ask him a two-part question.
Kevin, if you wouldn't mind, from your perspective, I'd love to hear the origin story of the Iron Claw move, specifically and how it very first came to be. And then as it pertains to the Iron Claw in the movie, what your thoughts were on Zac Efron's depiction of him.
And Zac, too, was right on top of it. He wanted to do his best. And with the information he was given, he did. I thought he did a great job and putting that out there. But I have to say, a lot of things were so wrong. Like, for instance, my wife was a beautiful girl in high school, and I was older than her by 2 years. But every 6 weeks, the school's A and B honor roll would come out. And every now and then, one of my brothers would make the B honor roll, and it'd be like a celebration to us. But there was always Pam May. It's the only name in the A honor roll. There was only her name. So I used to think, I wonder if I'll ever meet her. Probably not. She's bookworm or something. And she was that way. She was just never broke a rule. Such a lady. I mean, if a joke had a dirty word in it, she would not laugh. She was just a lady all the way. Soft and sweet and everything I wanted. But I was a cool cat, in college. My girlfriend was a cheerleader, and I loved my St. Bernard, and he rode in the front, Glenn rode in the back. And that's just because, I never thought I could love something more than my dog. But then we had Kristen, my firstborn baby, and Pam was queen of the castle. And she just made my home so much more than what I was used to. I lived a bachelor for a long time, but I know my dad had a freaky strong grip, and he was talking to a promoter one time when he was young. I guess he was young and frustrated, and Jackie had died, And my dad was a savage when he tracked me down. I think he wanted to die. He wanted someone to kill him if they could find him. But he was talking to a promoter and his hand was plexiglass desk. And he got mad and he snapped the corners off. His thumbs and forefingers were that amazing. And I think Dave had that and Kerry too. My claw wasn't as good as theirs, but.
All right, so Kevin, cautiously critical of Zac Efron.
Yeah, that's safe to say. I was getting that vibe too, yeah.
I don't want to diss on Zac Efron, but I don't know, man. I'm just not a big Zac Efron fan.
Well, when you see Kevin, you see his demeanor, and then you see Zac Efron, I'm like, whoa, that's a huge leap for Zac Efron to play a guy like that. But interesting Q&A there with Kevin.
Yeah. So Austin Comic-Con is done. Vegas is done. So that now means that you're going to kiss Texas and the Texas Heat goodbye for what? Like the next 20 weeks or something? You're just you're literally taking your whole house and leaving the area and you're never going back, right? You're done with Texas.
It's a weird type of pack because I'm not moving. It's going to feel like I'm living there because we're going to be there for about 7-8 weeks, I think. So it's Illinois, interesting because you got to
Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois, Wisconsin area. You got to make some decisions as to what's worth it and what can you go, what clothes can you go 7 weeks without, what things actually have to go with you full time. So it's an interesting packing situation.
But here's the thing: 7 weeks, you're driving.
Yep,
so
that's right.
And what kind of car are you packing here? What are we
Chevy
talking about?
Malibu, nice big sedan, nothing crazy.
Okay, you got a big trunk, so yep. I mean, you got space. And worst case scenario, you can buy it there.
You can, because that is the beauty of life, especially when you have a car. So adds a little bit of functionality to the whole thing, for sure. So we're in the process of packing the car right now, and we're going to be heading up to Illinois, but stopping at Big Cedar Lodge on the way, a place that people have seen a lot about in the most recent years, home to several championship golf courses. On Tuesday, I'll be playing the Paynes Valley course, which is designed by a guy named Tiger Woods. Not sure if you've ever heard of him before.
Oh, no. Is he any good?
He's fairly new to the golf course design game. I think he plays a little bit as well, too. Okay. So I'll see what that track is like. And they've got the famous 19th hole with the canyon surrounding. Monday night, they got a brand new par 3 course that I'll be checking out as well, too. So it'll be fun to check out everything in the Ozarks there for a little road trip stop along the way up north.
What's your goal for your score at?
Yeah. What do we think? I don't know, man. I'm not going to play it all the way back. I'll play probably 1 or 2 sets from the back tees. I'll play it somewhere in the 6,000 to 6,500 yard range, maybe. Yeah. And then I would say if I can break 90, it'll be pretty impressive. That'd be good playing on a course like that.
Can you do? You're only going to play the course once, so I can't tell you to go back and do a hole with one club or do a hole blindfolded or something.
Well, I'm going to be doing a blindfolded 19th hole. I'm going to be doing a lefty 19th hole. I'm going to be doing lefty and blindfolded par 3s at cliffhangers as well too. So ample opportunities to do the random stuff too.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Best of luck to you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, let's switch over to Tuned In and share what we're tuning into outside of the world of sports. Alex, we need to watch on this weekend so we could talk about it on the podcast next week. Happy Gilmore 2.
Thank you for reminding me about this. Jesus, I've been waiting for this for what seems like years now. We've been talking about this movie. It's finally here.
Yeah. It's here. It comes out Friday. I was just looking at it. I finally looked at a trailer. I don't think I had ever looked at the trailer for this when it came out a while ago. They got everyone in this. They got Scottie. They got Jack.
They did.
The question is whether Tiger's in it somewhere. I didn't see Tiger in the trailer, but
you'd hope so. I know Nelly Quarter's in as well too.
Yeah, saw
Bryson.
Saw Bryson, JT,
Justin Thomas for sure.
Yeah. So all those guys are there. So
yeah, I mean, obviously the word on the street is and has been for months that it's going to be cameo riddled. It's going to be super nostalgic. Yeah. I think people are a little weary if it holds a candle to the first. There's a little bit of that murmur coming here, but we'll have the full review of what we think next week.
It's going to be, I'm a little concerned from watching the trailer that it, the original did not have a lot of cameos, obviously.
Yeah, well, it's much lower budget for sure.
Yeah, so they got all this money, they can do what they want now. So we'll see what it is. But I'm going to watch it this week. I'm going to make sure I watch it this weekend, and we're going to talk about it on the podcast next week.
For sure. One other huge news piece that I had to get to that I was tuned into, you were tuned into, everyone was tuned into, whether they had to or like to or not, is the Coldplay cheating couple, Michael. Tell me your thoughts when you first saw the story.
I mean, I think it was my first thoughts when I saw it was just like, oh, okay, a couple got caught in the kiss cam. Oh, well. And then just the fallout from it was just like, oh, wow, that's too bad. And then the apology from this guy, quote unquote apology, and his unhappiness that such a private moment was thrust into the public spotlight. Dude, you're in a public place right now. And you were the dumb idiot who brought your side chick, who's the HR manager of the company you own.
BT dub.
It's just, I'm sorry I got caught. I didn't mean to get caught, is all his apology was to me.
I'm still trying to figure out if that thing is even freaking real or fake. That apology was so ridiculous. But regardless, it's ironic that the PR and messaging has been absent and gone from either one of them, because it's quite literally the CEO of the company and the HR director who were both married to different people. That's like the real unfortunate part of the situation is multiple families ruined as a result of this random public viral moment as well too.
Look, this just teaches you don't cheat on your partner.
That's a fairly direct lesson there.
But if you are going to cheat on your partner and get caught on it, get ready for all the memes and literally everyone to get in on it.
It's so sad because, Michael, all they had to do was just keep the embrace and pretend like they were a happy couple, because that wouldn't have gone viral. That would have just been another normal couple.
Yep.
But instead, the reaction is what outed them in the end and made them the viral cheating Coldplay couple. And yes, Michael, I do have tea, because it happened, as you know, in Gillette Stadium. And I know lots of people that go to concerts at Gillette Stadium.
Yeah.
And I know people that were at that show that night. And I also know people that live and work in the Boston area that have direct connections to the woman involved in this scandal.
Ooh. Do you know people that work at Astronomer?
No, not at the company.
Oh, okay.
But through professional relationships,
better,
we were able to glean some information directly from the woman. This is fairly an exclusive right now from my unnamed source.
Here it is.
Who you could probably gather if you know anything about me.
Yeah. Is it someone who's been on the podcast before?
Maybe. That's a hard maybe. The source, the woman said on text message, she is gutted, but she says there's a lot more to it. That was her reaction to everything going on. She's in complete hiding right now. The CEO has officially resigned as of when we're recording right now. So. I don't know what her professional future is like. But yeah, little interesting piece of perspective there. I don't really think there is a lot more to it. I think the resignation tells you that they were caught red-handed and their lives are turned upside down. But we'll see if there's anything else to develop this week.
Here's a question for you. What kind of lie do you tell your partner to get to go to Gillette to watch a Coldplay concert with your side?
So, honey, what we're doing is we're doing a team building event with our coworkers only. Unfortunately, we couldn't get enough tickets in the suite, so we can't bring spouses. I'm sorry.
Wow.
How quickly did I come up with that?
That sounds a lot like what I had to tell my wife when we went to Ireland.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Yes, when you cheated on her with me for a week. It was great. It was a great week. Yes.
Oh, wow. We just said that out loud, didn't we?
Yep, we did.
All right. Exclusive breaking news right here on the Course of Life podcast.
There it is. That's what we're tuned into. Love it.
That's it. All right. Let's get to the turn. This week's guest, we've got a past guest return to the podcast who's back on in 2023. He talked to us about what it was like designing golf courses. And Tripp Davis is back to talk about all the new stuff he's working on now.
Next up on the tee, he is a world-class golf architect. We last connected with him in 2023, and he's got some ties to Oklahoma, but he's traveling all over, currently in Georgia, working on a course right now. It's Tripp Davis joining us on the Course of Life. Tripp, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. It's been good to connect with you again. It was 2 years since we last talked in 2023. I know you're an Oklahoma guy, so I just wanted to quickly start with some Oklahoma stuff. Recently, a championship in Oklahoma. Thoughts on the OKC Thunder getting it done and getting it and cruising through the NBA Finals through a arduous 7-game series.
Well, my wife and I have been fans. I mean, I think it's this year will be the 5th year that we have gone to watch a game. They seem to have a game every New Year's Eve there.
Yep.
And they happen to get one. And so we've gone, I think if they have one this coming year, it'll be our 5th time in a row to go to that and go out to eat after that and so forth. And actually before, but it's, I've been following them for a long time. When they came in, when New Orleans had to come up and play in Oklahoma City, I went to a couple of games when they came up for that. And then the guy that owns Oak Tree Golf Club, or actually it's called Oak Tree National now, where I actually live now and play my golf when I can, is one of the owners of the Thunder. And so, if you go into the Oak Tree Pro Shop, there's blue and orange stuff everywhere. So
nice.
But it was a lot of fun. My wife actually is maybe a bigger fan of the Thunder than I am. So it was fun to follow.
Yeah, a great run for them. Shout out to SGA and the team for getting it done, bringing that championship to Oklahoma as well too. And I know you're obviously a big OU guy. For those who don't know, Tripp, part of the national championship winning Oklahoma Sooner golf team in the late 90s. What year was that? 90 what?
89. Yeah,
89. Oh, I didn't want to have you as that old. I thought you were far younger than that.
Yeah, that was my senior year. So yeah, it's one of those things that it's great to look back on, but it's also a milestone that tells me how old I am.
Right. And yes. The reminders.
Yeah, it's what it is.
But Oklahoma football this fall, our audience will be listening to this just as we're getting going and getting all the preseason football hype going. We were 6-7 last season. We're heading into the 4th season with Brent Venables as the coach. What are your thoughts on the Sooners heading into this SEC season?
Well, I'm a big fan of Brent. Coach Venables is, I think, Joe Castiglione, our athletic director, is in with him for the long haul. I don't think that's going to be anything snap. I would really find it hard to believe that he's not there for a while, and I think that's starting to show up in recruiting, and then how he's been able to attract some the transfer talent. You never know. I mean, SEC is obviously very difficult, and we've got as brutal a schedule this year as we did last year. For those Texas fans, they got it easy this year, as they did last year, comparatively speaking. But I think one thing is going to be quarterback play. I mean, we struggled at quarterback last year, and with kid coming in from Washington State and his coach coming in, who's apparently a really good offensive guru wizard, which we didn't have early on. I think it's going to be pretty cool. And Brent's going back to calling defense. So I think that's going to be interesting too. Obviously he was one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, and it'll be fun to see. We've moved to Edmond, up at Oak Tree. And so we don't get to as many games. We have our season tickets, but it seems like we end up giving them away most of the time. But I'm really excited to see them and see how that goes.
Yeah, always fun to talk college football when it's that time of year now. Like I mentioned, you're a national champion, All-American at OU. But in terms of your golf course design career, you can take a look at your website and see the courses that you've done all over the place. But you have a good concentration kind of in the Southern Plains. What were the first seeds for you to actually go into golf course design? You had a playing career, but what was that moment when you decided you actually wanted to design courses?
Well, when I was a kid, playing junior golf, I was one of the few guys, and this was about the time that yardage books started to, and you had come about, and then you had, distances on the sprinkler heads. And, I would go out and chart a golf course. I remember, when I was 12 years old, my mom drove me about 30 minutes so I could go walk a golf course that I was playing a 9-hole tournament on the next day. And because I wanted to chart it out. And that's kind of my mindset as a player was always strategic, because I, wasn't the biggest guy. I didn't have um, the greatest physical skills. I had a really good short game, but so that was part of the seed. And the club that my parents joined, so I could play golf when I was 15, was done by Robert Trent Jones Sr. And and every time we played somewhere, it was, we played a lot of Donald Ross courses when I was a kid, junior golf, and so I became enamored with design. And I got interviewed by the Atlanta Journal when I was 15. I just uh, finished second in one of the bigger junior tournaments, and they did a little article, and they said, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I'd really like to be a golf course architect. And so that's something I always loved. And so when I finished playing at OU, I tried to play a little bit on the Hogan Tour. I had some playing privileges, but uh, it kind of went back to the fact that I wasn't the biggest guy. I didn't have the greatest physical skills. And so I went back to school and got my master's degree in landscape architecture with pretty strong emphasis on civil engineering, because I got to talk to Pete Dye about that time when I was thinking about going back to school, and it just happened. He was at Oak Tree, and I happened to be up there that day, just playing. And I asked him what are the three most important things with golf course design. I asked him what are the most important things. He goes, the three most important things are drainage, drainage, and drainage. And so he said, when you're going back to school, try to get some of that in. And so when I talked to everyone, I ended up, taking 6 classes in civil engineering to help with that. So that's kind of how it all led. And then, having played at Oklahoma, I knew some people in the golf world in Oklahoma, Texas, and that helped me get my foot in the door and get started.
Good story indeed. It shows that you were chasing the passion for design through and through, even through your college career and whatnot. And the courses that you designed, they start off in the Southern Plains area. You've gone to many other places, which we will talk about. But that's something that it's funny. It's just now coming into my brain. I'm a lifelong golfer. I've covered the game for a while, but you don't quite think about the idea that golf courses are designed based on where they are going to be designed. I think a lot of golfers just have it in your head that you can design a golf course and you can just throw it in New York or California or Oklahoma or wherever. Explain what goes into your process when you're designing a golf course, specific to a region like the Southern Plains versus other places on the map.
Well, there's a variety of factors. I mean, the climate has a lot to do with the type of grasses you can use, for example. And
right.
So that's going to have an impact. In Oklahoma, Texas, you have wind to deal with more so than other places in the country. Florida actually has a fair amount of wind too. We've done a couple projects there now. We've got another one coming up in 2028 in Jupiter where the wind blows too. But, when you get to other parts of the country, having worked some we redid Sonoma Golf Club. It's a totally different environment in terms of, the wind doesn't really blow through there as much. Temperatures are more temperate throughout the year. So grass types are going to be different. And so what we're always trying to do is match up playing quality with the climate, which then has an impact on turf grasses and so forth. You have to build it in such a way to meet design intent. If you want it to play firm, then grass selection has something to do with that. The way in which you build drainage and so forth. And it's different in every climate because of the different types of rainfall, temperature variances throughout the year and so forth. So there's a lot that, the two main things really, though, are how the climate impacts the turf grasses and materials. Bunker sands are different everywhere and so forth.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then also how the climate impacts the way the game's played. So, when you're in the wind belt, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, you've got to be really aware of what the wind's going to do, and less so in other places. But rain's a bigger factor in other places. You get into Florida and where we're here working in Athens, Georgia right now, it's, it rains quite a bit more than it does in Dallas, for example.
Indeed. Yeah. Well said. And that's a perfect segue. I just got to connect when I was covering the KPMG Women's PGA at Fields Ranch East in Frisco, the home of the PGA of America there, with Gil Hance, who created that layout. And I asked him specifically, was the wind something you thought of like day one, or did it come with the process? He said, no, like day one, hour one, we were thinking about the wind direction, where it's coming from, how it's going to affect the layout. And you're having a little bit of that as well with a project that you're currently doing in West Texas, in specifically San Angelo. So explain what goes into that. That's a place where the breeze blows. I know it. And what type of changes did you actually make to a place like that for that climate?
Well, when you're in a place where the wind blows, there's a number of different things that go into because when we're standing on ground and we're looking at the way we want a hole to fit the ground, the way we want that hole to play, our eyes have a lot to do with that. Visually, how does this hole look? How does it feel? When you've got wind involved, you have to have the ability to let that wind come into the way you're going to see things. And it's in most every part of the country where the wind blows, it doesn't blow the same place, same direction all the time. And having done a lot of work in Dallas, Oklahoma's the same. Kansas can be the same. But in San Angelo, it's a different animal. It's
For those who don't know, San Angelo is like actually West Texas. It's about 3 hours west of where I am in Austin.
Yeah, it's. I always, say if you're coming from Austin to Dallas or Fort Worth or somewhere, you drive 2.5 hours and then you turn left and go another hour, or you go to the middle of nowhere and turn left.
Yes.
So the wind out there is a huge factor in the way you build things. For instance. They happen to be at elevation too, so they're able to build bent grass screens.
Wow!
Because it stays dry. Bent grass will handle heat; it just doesn't like it overly wet and hot. And but you have to be aware that it only rains 13 inches a year, except when you're building a golf course and it rains 24. And so we have to be aware of that in the type of greens we build. We work with the superintendent there to spec the right type of mix so that he's not, he has enough water holding capacity. That's a factor with wind. You realize that the game has to be played more on the ground because certain types of wind conditions, you just simply can't get to certain greens even through the air. You have to land balls short sometimes. And you can use the wind as a strategic factor, in terms of making it a challenge to get to certain hole locations. Because let's say that 70% of this playing season, the wind's coming out of the right on a hole. You can create a back right hole location that makes it a little more difficult to get to. Conversely, when the wind's the other direction, it can go. It may be easier to get to. And so the ground movement has a lot to do with how you work with wind. Because when the ball lands and it starts to bounce and roll, it needs to be able to, you either want it to feed to a good area. In some cases, we might have a bad day and feed it to a bad area. But constantly have to be aware of the different directions that it can come from so that the layout is flexible enough to be able to handle what it may do. You can't just think of one certain direction. You've got to think of every direction so that the golf course has the ability to be set up to be pliable to which direction the wind's coming from.
Yeah, it's probably my number one adversary out there, and I'm always trying to beat it here in Texas. So I appreciate the forethought that you put into everything you do with your courses regarding the wind. And beyond Texas, Oklahoma, the area we're talking about now, you've spread your wings to a lot of other places recently with your design work. And I know right now you're in a very cool college town working on something right now. Tell us a little bit about where you are and what you're working on.
So the Rose is a pretty unique. It's a small private club that Nick Cassini and his brother Dimitri founded. Nick and I met for the first time playing in the final group together at the Porter Cup in probably 2001.
Wow, cool.
And I played some amateur golf in my 30s and early 40s, and so that particular day, I was, I don't think we were second to last. I think we were third to last group. And Nick goes out and shoots 64 and wins the tournament. And, and so I saw him at other events the rest of the summer. And, he's a member at Atlanta Athletic Club that where I redid the Riverside course a couple of years ago. And so we had always kept in touch. And, he and his brother, just two of the best people you'd ever meet in your life. And so they called me one day and said, "Hey, we're looking at doing a small private club over in Athens, as a place to, uh, largely UGA alumni kind of thing, but there's a lot of other people that have gotten involved with it as well." And they said, we found a piece of ground we want you to go look at. And it was really severe topography, probably had some environmental issues that were going to be tough to deal with. And so I said, this is tough. I'd keep looking. And so they found another piece of ground that was kind of flat and didn't have many trees on it, didn't have a whole lot going for it. And I said, this would work, but we'd have to move some dirt around to make it kind of interesting. And I know there's decent property around here, so I would take another look. And they found the property that we are now building on.
Third time's a charm.
Third time's a charm. And they just sent me topo maps first, and I said, this looks amazing. And I said, let's go walk it. And we went out and walked it, and I did a routing plan about a month in the month following that we pretty much are building, because the property lent itself, to we kind of always knew where the clubhouse location would be. There was one ridge that they wanted to put it on, and it was hard to get back to the clubhouse. I encouraged them to move it a little to the west, and that's where we ended up. And but from there, everything just seemed to fit. We had some goals that we wanted to achieve. We wanted the finish to be really interesting, and so we were looking for a drivable hole in the final few holes. We wanted a really short par three, somewhere near the end, preferably 17, which is where we ended up. And 16, so 15 is a drivable hole, playing downwind a good portion of the time. 16 is a par 5 that plays downwind a good portion of the time. And 17 is a little 140-yard crosswind par 3 with the smallest green on the course, sitting on the side of this pretty significant slope. You miss it left, just hit another one.
That's nice. That sounds like a hole where the matches are going to be decided for a lot of people.
Yeah, really cool finish. And then it just worked out to where then, if you go to the top of the hill from where 17T is, there's a 510-yard par 4 that goes down a hill and then rises back up. Nick was really enamored with the way Shinnecock finishes. And, you play right below the clubhouse, big, long par 4 that doglegs up the hill. And this is not a copy, but it has a lot of similarities.
Very cool. That sounds like a fun little finish there to the Rose in Athens, Georgia. So out of curiosity, you said you get the topo maps, the topographical maps, and then the routing process. You said you put together a routing. What's the rough timeline on how long it takes you to put together a routing of the course in that stage?
Well, it's one of those things that you want to do until you've got it right. And so it could take, you're rarely going to get it perfectly right on your first go around. And we didn't there either. We tweaked a little bit in that first month as we were playing with it. So, it can take a good while. You want to go out and walk everything because you want to know what you're seeing, not so much just what's on the topo map. And so, and this site had been timbered for pine in 2019, but it had grown back up enough to where it was hard to kind of walk and see. And we cut some lines through and eventually got there. But the routing of a new golf course really is critical. It establishes the whole feel and the framework of what you're going to work with.
Definitely. So what was it? Weeks, months? How long is that actual routing process?
That one took us about 6 weeks to get to pretty much where we're at now.
Okay.
And then we started from there. We've really tweaked very little. 17 green moved a little bit from where I had it originally. But for the most part, in about 6 weeks, we had pretty much what we were working with.
And what's the timeline on the roast? Is there where is it at? What's the status?
So we're in the process right now of finishing everything. We will have all the sod down this year. We're working right now on getting greens sprigged, and so to Nick and Dimitri's credit, and the other founders that are involved, I mean, they're going to basically allow the golf course to grow in until September of 26. And so I'm sure it's going to be a big football game, game day, early September sometime. They haven't, established a date yet, but that's the time frame we have.
Very cool. So in this interim period right now, that moment, this 12 months here, how much of your work is done, and what sort of like checkbacks do you do between now and September of 26 in a course like that?
Well, I have my own shaper that's been with me for 20 years, Jason Gold, and so I spend a lot of time with him. We're a little bit unique. Like Gil, for example, doesn't do grading plans to the extent that we do, and the only reason we do is that's how I grew up in the business. But we've really matured over the years and evolved over the years to where that's our framework, and then we go from there. Like the fifth hole we were working on today, we're still finishing the grading on shaping on the fifth fairway, and it looks nothing like the original plan because what we wanted to see in there. So I'm around a lot. I mean, we started in November, early November, and I've been here probably an average of 3 days a week up until now. And right now I'm on a run where I'm not home for another 18 days. And I'll be here because we're finishing greens, and I do the finish shaping on the greens myself. So I got to be around. But Athens is not the worst place in the world to hang out. And
I was going to ask about that. Yeah, it's like one of those college towns where I feel like, people name a few in the SEC as great college towns. I feel like Athens gets a little bit overlooked. What's the charm and appeal that you love so much about the area?
Oh, it's just, well, I grew up not far from here in Atlanta. And so my sister lives in Athens, actually, and my brother's not too far away. And so, that's good. But the college town portion here, the downtown area, it just has an energy about it that's just really cool. I mean, I actually got an apartment downtown instead of being out near the site because I wanted to kind of be able to get away for one. And then also, just I'll walk up and eat breakfast on the way. There's a place that opens early. And then, tonight I'll probably walk up and grab a bite to eat, and just the whole atmosphere is pretty cool. Even when school's not in session, it's fun. So it's been really a neat experience.
Very cool. All right, we're talking with Tripp Davis here, back on the Course of Life, and I wanted to touch on some other parts of the country and some courses that I know you like and have had some work with as well too. Last time we checked in, we were talking about newer tracks that you've taken a liking to, and one of them actually just had a major championship there. Did you get a chance to see any of the U.S. Women's Open at Erin Hills in June?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
I just, the scale of that property is amazing, and I had always kind of hoped to be able to work on a property that had that kind of scale and that rolling topography, which we have here in Athens. So it's been, a lot of what I saw there. I've only been once, but I've watched, the U.S. Open that was there, the Women's Open that was there, and being on there only once, you took a lot away from it. It's kind of one of those places like St. Andrews or Oakmont or Wingfoot. When you go play them, if you're paying attention, especially as a golf course architect, I mean, you're just going to fill up with thoughts and not so much ideas as just the overall way in which the thing was carried out. And I love what Dana and Mr. Hurston did there. And The bunker style is pretty unique as well. The greens are a little severe for me, for my style, for my liking. I'm a little bit more of a uh, um, subtle, lots of movement, but subtle movement. Those are big movements. But just the overall feel of the place is outstanding.
Yeah, we had the chance to talk with Maya Stark right after she won and had her here on the show, and you would have appreciated from an architect's perspective how much she talked about her and her caddy Jeff moving from point to point, missing it in the right place on every hole. She was going on and on about how important that was to the point where, if you remember, she quite literally hit a lag putt on the 72nd hole because she was so scared of what was on the other side of that pin. So it definitely brings out a lot of strategy. So I knew you'd appreciate that part.
Yeah, you definitely have to think your way around that golf course, and that's something that I'm a big believer in is having to think your way around.
Yeah, definitely. A couple other courses I wanted to bring up. We recently connected with a PGA of America legend earlier this year in Daryl Kestner, who I know you have a lot of background with, and you actually did some work previously on Deepdale in Long Island, where he is. What sort of work and involvement did you have in the course, and what's your relationship been like with Daryl?
Well, it's been a while since I've seen Daryl because I've actually pared down the amount of work I've done I'm doing over the last 6-7 years, and so we're not working with Deepdale any longer. But I did for about 15 years, just helping them with if they were going to add a tee box. I would come in and consult with them on that. We redid the 5th and the 8th greens completely. Deepdale's known for its severe greens, and those two were a little too severe. And we went in and fixed those, and just did a lot of different little things. And Daryl was always involved, and uh, uh, one of the great guys in our game. Obviously, he was a really good player for a long time and still plays a lot. But just has you always hear the term golf IQ, and Daryl's golf IQ in so many facets of the game, from design to the professional business, is just off the charts. And so, just a guy uh, I really enjoyed spending a lot of time with. I probably next time I'm in the area, my daughter lives in New York City now, and so I need to get over there and see him.
Yeah, and I'm a New England guy originally, if you don't remember, but I saw you had some Connecticut courses on your resume. How long ago was it you worked on those courses?
Still there. I mean, we worked with Burning Tree in Greenwich. It happened about through a connection of some friends, and really cool membership. The golf course was built in a swamp. And we've been working with them through a lot of that over the years, but just a neat place. Very off the radar screen because it's really more of a family club, but a neat place. And then we work with Rolling Hills in Wilton, Connecticut, and we've done most of the work there. But we'll go back in maybe this fall and do a little work to the 18th fairway. We've talked about doing some of that. But that was designed by Alfred Tull, who was the construction manager for a good many of the Tillinghast courses that were built in the
AEW Tillinghast. Okay, I know that name. Yeah.
And so Alfred Tull learned quite a bit and did some design work. I think he ended up doing about 10 courses around the East Coast, and this was one of them. And going back to routing, it was a pretty rolling piece of property, as the name suggests. And he did an outstanding job with the routing. And we've gone in over the years and tweaked things to fit the ground a little better for the modern game. But I like working up in that part of the world, especially since my daughter lives there now. And we're actually working with 2 clubs in New Jersey, too. And so it's fun to spend time there, especially in the fall.
Yeah, you're definitely spreading your wings all over. Tripp Davis here on the Course of Life. Let's get to some 19th hole questions. We always love to end with food, so I'll do a call back to what we talked about last time. I got a few food questions for you here first. I know you're a big steak guy, so the question is, when you go to your favorite steakhouse, Tripp, you can pick any cut. What's your cut of beef that you're getting?
Filet.
Yeah, filet.
Yeah,
and what are your favorite sides at the steakhouse as well too?
Well, you got to go with the loaded baked potato. And I've
Yes.
gotten into mushrooms lately too. I've kind of started throwing that on there, but there's actually a really good steakhouse just right up the street. Now that might be where I go for dinner.
Yep, I just inspired your dinner tonight. That was pretty easy. Steak with a little like brown sauce and the mushrooms. I think I can see it for you in the future.
Yeah.
And then we also talked about barbecue as well too. You know, I'm in Texas. You know all about barbecue. Just top of your head, favorite barbecue place ever, or favorite barbecue place you've had recently?
Well, Clark Crew Barbecue in Oklahoma City is. I've actually had people that know the barbecue world that say that may be one of the best places in the world.
Clark Crew. Okay.
We redid Thunderbird Country Club out in Palm Springs, and there's a member there, Mr. Ball, who Ball guitars. If you've ever heard of that, but he got into competitive barbecuing, and he told me that I needed to go meet these guys, and they were starting a restaurant because they were winning national, world championships in barbecue, and this place is amazing. And oddly enough, here in Athens, there's a place called Boss Dog Barbecue. Spelled like DAWG, like they spell
Fitting,
dog.
yes.
And really, really good stuff too. But I'm getting older. I'm not supposed to be eating that stuff as much. So I'm trying to stay a little bit away from it. But if you're ever in Oklahoma City, Clark Crew Barbecue is just amazing. We went there before a Thunder game not too long ago.
Nice. Awesome. Love that. So I guess that answer, we're trying to stay a little healthier, taking you back to Gasparilla, your grouper is probably not going to be fried. It's probably going to be grilled or blackened, right?
Yeah. The grouper down there, they do a blackened one there's three really good restaurants there. And I'm drawing a blank on the name of the one that's the old one that's been there since the 40s, but they do a really good blackened grouper there. So I'm supposed to be eating a lot more fish. And,
yes, that's what they say.
And that's a good place to go to do that.
Love it. Tripp, thank you so much for hopping back on the Course of Life. Love hearing about all your golf course design endeavors and look forward to catching up with you again down the road.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed it.
Course of Life podcast is brought to you by Zencastr. We've been using Zencastr here since almost the very beginning as how Alex and I record this podcast from hundreds of miles away. And it provides us with great quality audio that works every time. And it's something that makes Course of Life what it is and has kept us being able to make consistent episodes every week. And now it's super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. You log in using your browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. You record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. You feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. And have you ever wondered what you actually sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. Head on over to zencastr.com/pricing and use our promo code CourseOfLife to get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all of your podcasting and content needs. Again, that's zencastr.com/pricing and our promo code CourseOfLife. Zencastr, it's time to share your story. We're back. Great chat there with Tripp. I'm going to have to find a way to get up to Athens to play this course.
It sounds nice. The Rose. Yeah, that's going to be fun to check out as it opens here in the coming months. And Tripp, always on the road, always doing something cool. He's a cool guy to catch up with. And he's got very interesting perspective, Michael. Those designers we're starting to learn more about. You know, we heard the Nick Price stories from Saleda recently on the podcast. hearing Tripp's perspective, hearing Gil Hance talk about Fields Ranch East at PGA Frisco. Very cool side of the game that we're starting to learn a little bit more about. So if you enjoyed that conversation or anything else you heard on the podcast, be sure to subscribe right now while we're talking. Be sure to leave a thumbs up, like us, give a review, as many stars as you like. Whatever the deal is, we thank you for tuning in.
All right, let's talk some WNBA. It was All-Star Weekend, and to kick it off, they all wore shirts saying, "Pay us what you owe us."
Yeah, they're pretty underpaid, I would say, compared to the buzz and marketing hype that they've generated, especially in the last few years. Yeah.
Supposedly, though, they finally talked again about their collective bargaining agreement as they're working toward a new one right now. And according to the WNBA, the deal that the players brought was like so out of left field. They don't even know where they came up with these numbers. And it's just like almost a non-starter that they wanted so much money. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, look at what's happening to the WNBA. You got to give them what they're bringing in for y'all.
The salaries are like really embarrassing just for people who don't really have any perspective. I would say the last person on the bench of an NBA team, the bottom feeder NBA roster guys, are making somewhere in between, I would say, 500 and 1.1 million a year, 500K, 1.1. Average WNBA players making less than 100,000 a year. The worst, the bottom feeder WNBA players, I believe, are making like $50,000 a year or less right now as it stands in 2025, just for some perspective on the wages.
So there is perspective there. I will say two things about that. First, the NBA has a massive deal with media rights and is getting all that money from that.
That's right.
The WNBA is going to start getting a lot more money. They're getting more traction. They're getting more money from that. $50,000 to play professional basketball and then get all the perks that come with that is more money than I make a year.
Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, it's more money than a lot of people make out of the year. That's for sure.
I would gladly be a WNBA bench warmer.
Yeah, gladly, right? I know. So that was the WNBA All-Star Weekend highlight from a news perspective. From a shooting perspective, it was all about Sabrina Ionescu absolutely making it rain. She won the 3-point competition and hit a bunch of 4-pointers in the All-Star game, which I love seeing as well, too. She's basically the female Steph Curry. If you haven't seen her shoot, it's a treat. I want them to bring back that head-to-head they did, you remember, a couple of years ago, All-Star Weekend, when they had her and Steph Curry go head-to-head in the 3-point shooting competition. They should do that annually. It didn't happen this past season, but definitely want to bring that back in the future.
All right. On Wednesday of this past week was the saddest day in the sports calendar year, when none of the major professional sports are doing literally anything. Baseball is on the break for the All-Star Weekend. PGA Tour, of course, doesn't play on Wednesdays. NBA is not doing anything. NFL, of course, isn't doing anything. The NHL's done. So nothing happens. So ESPN takes advantage of that day and does the ESPY Awards.
Yep.
And the big news from that, the only thing we care about is that a Quinnipiac graduate won an ESPY.
Yeah, a shout out to Alona Mar, rugby star, Dancing with the Stars alumni as well, too, for taking that home after being one of the heroes of that bronze medal winning rugby team. And yeah, Quinnipiac Bobcat on the map there as an ESPY winner. Michael, I keep going through this, but pretty sure she is now the most famous Quinnipiac alumni, right? Currently, right? Is it? Do I?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, we have a Quinnipiac alum who's won an Oscar.
Correct. That's the I forget the name of the movie, but he won it in the last couple of years. I know who you're talking
Klansman. About. He won from Black Klansman.
Correct.
From our class, from our graduating class as well. Yeah. We went. I remember him. Cool. I don't know if he remembers me, but I remember him.
So yeah, shout out to Alona Mar.
Yeah, shout out
most famous Bobcat.
Mar. There you go. Definitely is right now. Let's talk a little baseball. The second half of the season has started. And my question, though, for you, Alex, is now that you're going back up to the Wisconsin, Illinois area up there where you're going, are you going to go to another Milwaukee Brewers game? Because they are on a 10-game win streak as of
I might time. Now that you mention it. It's all schedule based. Our planned agenda is we want to go to a Chicago White Sox game, and specifically I want to go to a Chicago White Sox game.
That's going to be real easy to get to.
Yes, and the reason I want to go is because they are horrible and they have historically low attendance numbers, and I want to be part of one of those stadiums where there's 128 people watching an MLB game. So that's intentionally unfortunately the reason why we're going to a White Sox game. And I also want to check that ballpark off. But yes, Milwaukee could be in the cards here. I'm headed to Chicago Cubland, where all my in-laws are Cubs fans. And the Red Sox just got swept by the Cubs in a 3-game series coming out of the All-Star break. So, sorry, we lost 2 out of 3, but still not a great way to exit the 10-game winning streak heading into the break.
No, it was not. It is a new half of the season. A lot of trades are probably going to happen over the next few weeks. Yeah. The Yankees are actually kind of looking pretty good. 7-3 in the last 10, spanning the break. So maybe starting to turn that sad sack team around that we saw there. But Brew Crew, hottest team in baseball, 10-game win streak.
Yeah, this is that week right now where next week we come back and we wonder if our teams do anything at the trade deadline. It's at the end of the month. So this is that moment where like, does your team ownership and management actually care, or are we just punting next year? We'll find out.
We'll find out. This is time to make that decision. In the meantime, let's hashtag always end with food.
Yep, food recap, 19th hole content incoming here. You can check Always End with Food. For a couple of food reviews I did in Vegas, Michael, I reviewed Pink Box Donuts and Pop-Up Pizza in the Plaza. But the dining highlight definitely was Oscar's Steakhouse. Yes. I teased it a little bit last week, but that was a luxurious experience. You saw we even sat at the booth where Robert De Niro and Sharon Stone had a famous confrontational scene in the movie Casino. So we got to live our Hollywood history minds out through an amazing steak dinner, the wedge salad, the lobster bisque, the 24-ounce ribeye, and the mac and cheese, and topped off with a lovely dessert trio. It was pure elegance with Vegas history. So awesome meal there in Las Vegas.
Which particular item of food is the one you have to get when you go there? If you could only take one of those things and order it again, which thing would it be? Wow.
Honestly, that's really tough. I would say my wife would probably say the lobster bisque because that's her absolute favorite, one of her favorite foods, and it was an amazingly done lobster bisque. Yeah, it's no discredit to the steak. I put the steak a close second, but for some reason, I don't know why, they randomly crushed their creme brulee. It was amazing. I don't know why. I didn't even expect it, but it was amazing.
If you can get a creme brulee right, it's just like, it's so good if you can get it right.
You saw me hitting that top layer with the spoon. It was like breaking through a layer of ice on a pond in the winter.
Yeah, that's how it should be. Sure.
It was glorious. So Oscars recap there. Got in our last Texas meals. We got our last taco meal in. We got our last barbecue meal in. And you'll appreciate that we packed about 50 to 60 HEB tortillas for the drive up to Italy. So that way we've got a little bit of Texas heading up to the north.
And you're going to stop Buc-ee's on the way. So
we got 2 Buc-ee's on the way up. So there'll be lots of Buc-ee's as well.
There you go.
Nice. All right, that's a wrap on the food content and the podcast for this week. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast if you've made it this far. We appreciate you doing so, and we'll see you next week.